The first time I heard the rumor that Meghan Markle made Princess Charlotte cry, I felt this instant knot in my stomach. Charlotte was only 3 years old, a toddler, and yet somehow that little girl became the target of something cruel, something familiar. And that was the moment I knew Meghan wasn't just difficult or misunderstood, she was exactly like my stepmom. I know it because I didn't read it in a book, but because I lived it. In this video, I want to talk about the rumors around Megan's behavior, how it mirrors what I experienced, and why this moment unlocked something so personal for me. But before we begin, here's the intro. Welcome to Revealing the Narc. Join me as I highlight narcissistic traits in celebrities and public figures. Everything here is in my opinion and not professional advice. If you enjoy the analysis, please like and subscribe. So everybody, I want to reiterate what was said in the intro and provide a disclaimer. This video discusses alleged behavior and public narrative surrounding Meghan Markle, particularly the rumored incident involving Princess Charlotte. I want to be clear that I am not diagnosing anyone, nor am I claiming to know someone's internal state or mental health. Instead, I'm using this story as a lens to explore malignant narcissism, emotional dynamics, and the impact of harmful behavior, especially as it relates to vulnerable individuals like children. Meghan serves here as a public figure and illustration, not a clinical case study. My goal is to educate, reflect, and help others recognize red flags from personal experience or observation. So, with all of that said, let's start talking. Okay, everyone, so here's the backstory. Before Meghan and Harry's royal wedding, there were reports that Meghan made Princess Charlotte cry during a bridesmaid fitting. I'm going to read you two different versions of this story. The first one is in Tom Bower's book, Revenge, and the second one is off of a website that I saw people posting comments on. The quote in Tom Bower's book begins, "Since she had just given birth to Louis, Kate was too fatigued to cope with a disagreement about whether the bridesmaids should wear tights. Following protocol, Kate believed they should. The Californian was uninterested in royal tradition. Her insistence was supported by Jessica Mulroney, present as an advisor and the mother of another bridesmaid, Ivy. Some would say that Meghan compared Ivy favorably against Charlotte. Others were surprised by Meghan's close attachment to Mulroney." And the quote ends there. There's actually a lot more that happens in this passage, and it relates to Princess Catherine, but I wanted to tease that all out, and I specifically want to talk about this interaction between Meghan and Princess Charlotte. Now let's go to this excerpt I found on Quora, and of course, this is rumor and speculation. We're taking this story at face value in order to see if there's any relations to things we may have experienced. And this is what it reads. The truth is, we just don't know for sure. Catherine, of course, won't say, and Meghan denies it. The rumor is, though, that on the day of the dress fittings for the wedding, Meghan, her friend Jessica Mulroney, and Jessica's daughter Ivy were mean to Charlotte, who was then still a toddler at 3. It is said that Ivy is a mean child in general, but on this occasion, she was apparently encouraged by both Meghan and Jessica to be hurtful towards Charlotte. It is speculated that Meghan made her opinions known, that she didn't want either George or Charlotte to participate in the wedding. Meghan was said to have put favor over Ivy, even saying Ivy was the best bridesmaid and Charlotte should take notice. This apparently enraged William and Catherine, who then pulled Charlotte from the dress fittings. This is said to have caused Charlotte to cry. I believe in fact, so like I stated above, there's no concrete proof that it happened like this or at all. I'd hate to think two adults encouraged a child to, I'm not going to say that word, and belittle another child. Now, here's my opinion, not just my thoughts. And it continues and says, Meghan has done a lot of things I question. I genuinely don't think she's a kind woman. She may portray herself as such, but I honestly see a devious woman behind her Colgate smile. Now, do I actually think she'd stoop as low to pit children against each other? My honest opinion is probably. It's a sad truth that adults can be horrible to children. Jessica has proven to be just as narcissistic as Megan. She has an air of superiority to her. I don't think it's so far out there that she was catty, and if Megan had decided and made known her thoughts about Catherine and the Cambridge kids, then I do think Jessica would side with Megan and play up her place. But again, I doubt we'll ever know either way. I just hope it is rumors because if not, they are both horrible and Ivy is just beginning her journey into self obsessed also. Take from it what you will and form your own opinion. Do you believe the sources or do you believe Megan? And the quote ends there. So what I see here is Jessica is being described here is Jessica is basically a flying monkey because what this poster said was that if Megan had known her thoughts about Catherine and the Cambridge kids, then Jessica would be on her side and behave like a flying monkey. And just really quick, I want to describe what flying monkeys are or who they are. These are people that are manipulated by the narcissist to carry out their agenda, whether it's spreading gossip, enforcing the narrative, guilting or shaming the target, or isolating the victim. I've talked about flying monkeys in other videos as well. And the most recent one that I believe I mentioned it was with regards to Megan's behavior at the Santabali polo match in 2024 and her interaction with Delphina. I'll put a link to that video in the description of this video. So, all of this is quite unsettling. Some say the argument was about tights, others say about flower crowns, whatever it was. Insiders said that Megan was harsh, demanding, and even cruel. But we know that Megan, in the Oprah interview and so many other things beyond that, has flipped the narrative, making herself the victim and the one who was wounded. This is a classic narcissistic move, flipping the script, avoiding accountability, and becoming the center of emotional attention. Now, I didn't grow up in a palace. I didn't wear a flower crown, but I did grow up with a malignant narcissist, my stepmother. And like Charlotte, I was just a child. I was sweet, sensitive, eager to please, and she hated me for it. I couldn't understand it for decades. Why would an adult hurt a child like this? Why would someone who's supposed to love you feel threatened by your existence? But when I heard that Megan allegedly did the same to Charlotte, this tiny, sweet, adorable little girl, something clicked. I wasn't alone. I wasn't imagining it. Narcissists target children. They do it subtly, quietly, behind closed doors, but they do it because children, in all their innocence and honesty, are seen as a threat to the narcissist's control. Let's pause here and talk about why this happens because it sounds unthinkable, but it's more common than people realized. Narcissists, especially malignant narcissists, feel threatened by vulnerability, by joy they can't control, by attention that isn't on them. Children are unpredictable. They say what they see, they take attention away from the narcissist. And worst of all, they reflect things narcissists don't want to feel empathy, innocence, and emotional honesty. So instead of nurturing it, they squash it. They may pit siblings against each other, they may make cutting remarks, or they may, like in this case, allegedly humiliate or intimidate a child over something as small as tights. Now, here's something really important. Not all narcissism is the same. A regular narcissist wants to be admired, they want attention, they may be arrogant or self absorbed, but they're not necessarily cruel. But a malignant narcissist, that's something else entirely. A malignant narcissist is calculated. They don't just want to be admired, they want to control everyone around them. They manipulate, they lie, they gaslight. And if you threaten their image, they will punish you. That's the type of narcissist who can smile on camera, then belittle a toddler behind closed doors and never feel bad about it because their ego comes first. When talking about narcissistic personality disorder, NPD, That is a mental health condition, but not everyone with narcissistic traits meets the full criteria. Many people, especially in celebrity culture, display narcissistic tendencies without being clinically diagnosable. Regular narcissists may be self centered and emotionally limited, but they aren't necessarily dangerous or cruel. Their behavior is typically about seeking attention, validation, and admiration, not about controlling or destroying others. Some key traits of regular narcissists include grandiosity, this inflated sense of importance, superiority, or uniqueness. They believe they are more special, talented, or important than others, and they expect others to treat them accordingly. They believe they're destined for greatness. They dominate conversations with stories about their success or their suffering. They dismiss or minimize the talents or struggles of others. They want to be the smartest, best dressed, most interesting person in the room. They crave admiration and validation. Their self esteem is fragile and depends on others' praise. They display attention seeking behavior. They have this constant need for admiration, praise, and being in the spotlight. They may overshare personal stories to draw sympathy or attention. They interrupt or redirect conversations back to themselves. They dress or behave in ways that draw eyes, not necessarily for fashion, but for validation. And they become visibly irritated or withdrawn if they're not the center of attention. They feel invisible or irrelevant unless people are reacting to them. They display a superficial charm. They're friendly, engaging, and even fun on the surface, but it rarely leads to authentic mutual connection. They make a strong first impression. They are funny, charismatic, or confident. They compliment others as a tactic to get praise in return. And then they can flip to cold, disinterested, or dismissive behavior if the admiration stops. The charm is a tool to gain access to praise, social status, or opportunity. Another hallmark of NPD is this lack of emotional depth. They struggle to form mutual emotional bonds. They may talk the talk, but they often lack the emotional capacity for deep empathy. They talk about emotions in a performative way. I'm a very emotional person, but they avoid real vulnerability. They fake empathy by mimicking what they think empathy should look like. They turn others' emotional moments into a reflection of their suffering. They may say something like, "Yeah, I know totally how that feels. When I was struggling, dot, dot, dot." Being present during good times, but absent or awkward during genuine distress is another behavior that may be displayed. Emotions are either a way to look good or something to avoid altogether. Another hallmark is this sense of entitlement. They believe that they deserve special treatment regardless of merit. They get angry when they don't get things their way. They expect praise or perks without effort, believing rules shouldn't apply to them, and taking offense when others are praised instead of them. Their self image depends on being seen as above average or superior, and anything that challenges that feels like a threat. Regular narcissists are charming at first, but they love bomb often in the beginning. Over time, they become self centered, demanding, and dismissive of your needs. They may cheat, lie, or manipulate, but often in subtle or self justified ways. They lack the cruelty or paranoia of malignant narcissists, but they're still emotionally harmful. When people hear narcissist, they often picture someone who's full of themselves but maybe harmless. That's why distinguishing classic narcissism from malignant narcissism is key. A regular narcissist wants the spotlight but may leave you alone if they get what they want. A malignant narcissist wants control, obedience, and total narrative dominance, and they will punish, smear, or exploit anyone who gets in their way. This is why when I see Megan's behavior and I compare it to my stepmom, what I see is something that goes beyond just narcissism, in my opinion, and allegedly. We've seen this manipulation, image weaponization, and emotional control over Harry that I think also point to something more severe in Megan's case. So now let's go into defining malignant narcissism and what that could look like. Malignant narcissism combines narcissistic traits with paranoia, manipulation, and aggression, charming on the surface, but calculating and emotionally dangerous. They often exploit others, even loved ones, to build their image or power. They lack empathy and they show pleasure in controlling others. Think of someone who smiles while destroying your reputation behind your back and then cries on camera to make you feel like the victim. It's not just about vanity, it's about control, it's about domination of the narrative, whether that's within the family or, in Megan's case, the media or her own household. One defining trait of malignant narcissism is being calculated, strategic, and manipulative in everything they do. Nothing is impulsive unless it serves a larger goal. There are carefully timed public appearances, photos, and narratives released at convenient moments, especially when sympathy or admiration is needed, public displays of emotion that serve a larger PR purpose. Going back to Megan, she doesn't randomly post about her kids or her past. It's often tied to brand launches, rebranding efforts, or moments where public opinion is low. It's not genuine sharing, it's narrative curation. A second characteristic is being image obsessed. They're fixated on how they are perceived by others. Their entire self worth depends on admiration, praise, or envy. It could look like having an over curated social media, jumping from one identity to another: activist, mother, royal, victim, mogul, carefully staging even candid moments to appear humble or relatable. And we've seen all of this in Meghan's case. There's a notable shift between every public chapter: the royal wife, the feminist rebel, the podcast host, the lifestyle brand queen. Each reinvention is an attempt to reassert control over how the world sees her. They lack empathy. That's another defining characteristic. There's an inability or unwillingness to feel what others feel. They might mimic empathy, but they don't feel it. They may use private family details for sympathy while cutting people off behind the scenes. They disregard how public actions harm others as long as they serve the narcissist's needs. They pretend to care deeply while betraying people who no longer serve a purpose. In Megan's case, we have seen so many examples, including publicizing tension with the royal family for personal gain while privately cutting off both her own family and Harry's, or using her children's image strategically, even while claiming to want privacy. And the final trait we'll talk about is that they can be extremely charming. They're magnetic at first. They know how to win people over, create emotional intimacy, and disarm skeptics. There could be love bombing romantic partners or audiences, playing relatable while maintaining control, smiling and sweet in public, cold or controlling in private. In Meghan's case, she won over millions. The American princess narrative was irresistible, but many people, staff, family, and many of you that are watching this reported a sense of coldness, control, or contradiction. So, why does this matter with Harry? When someone like Meghan, a potential malignant narcissist, pairs with someone like Harry, who shows signs of being trauma bonded and conflict avoidant, the result is a power imbalance hidden behind a polished exterior. He agrees to everything, sacrifices everything, until the subject turns to the thing that triggers his deepest trauma: the exploitation of children by the media. That's even when the yes man says no and the narcissist finds a workaround. So, I want to mention that part 2 of this video is going to go into the article that was recently released about Harry and his dislike of happening with the children in the media. I wanted to create this video to kind of serve as a backdrop for that video that's coming soon. So let's wrap this up now. I wasn't in that fitting room, none of us were, but here's what we did see. We saw a leak story that made Meghan look bad. We saw a carefully crafted public reversal where Meghan became the victim, and a complete absence of empathy towards Charlotte, Catherine, or the situation as a whole. That pattern, deny, reverse, deflect, is classic malignant narcissism. And for me, that was the moment I stopped giving Meghan the benefit of the doubt. That was the moment I stopped seeing her as misunderstood and started recognizing her as someone deeply manipulative, strategic, and emotionally dangerous. This video isn't just about Meghan, it's about recognizing patterns. It's about that gut feeling you get when something doesn't sit right and learning to trust it. Because for me, the Charlotte story wasn't just a headline, it was a mirror. And once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. If you grew up with a narcissist, a parent, a step parent, or a caregiver, you probably know exactly what I mean. The cruelty that lies behind the smile, the power play that looks like parenting, the wounds that no one else sees. So if you've ever feel like you're losing it for noticing the red flags, you're not alone. If this resonated with you, please drop a comment below. if you feel comfortable. I'd love to hear your story. And if you want more videos like this where we look at public figures through the lens of narcissism, please subscribe. I've written two fictional companion stories for this video that dig into all of this. You can listen to them on my Patreon, and the link is below. I want to thank you all so much for listening. I appreciate all of you so much, and I will talk to you all soon. Bye, everybody.